The Hidden Leaf Village, nestled deep within the lush forests of the Land of Fire, was a place of both tranquility and tension. The towering Hokage monument loomed over the village, its carved faces a testament to the leaders who had shaped its history. Among the bustling streets, Naruto Uzumaki, the village's knuckle-headed ninja with dreams of becoming Hokage, was training relentlessly. His orange jumpsuit was soaked with sweat as he practiced his signature shadow clone jutsu, creating dozens of copies of himself in a flurry of smoke and determination. Nearby, Sakura Haruno watched with a mix of admiration and concern, her pink hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She had grown stronger under the tutelage of Lady Tsunade, the fifth Hokage, and her fists could now shatter boulders with ease. Sasuke Uchiha, ever the brooding prodigy, leaned against a tree, his Sharingan eyes scanning Naruto's movements with a calculating gaze. Though he had returned to the village, the shadows of his past still clung to him, and his motivations remained as enigmatic as ever. The peace of the village was deceptive, for whispers of a new threat had begun to circulate. Orochimaru, the rogue ninja whose name alone struck fear into the hearts of shinobi, had resurfaced. Known for his insatiable thirst for power and forbidden jutsu, Orochimaru had long been a thorn in the side of the Hidden Leaf. His latest scheme, however, was shrouded in mystery. Rumors spoke of a curse tied to the manipulation of time itself, a power that could unravel the very fabric of reality. The village elders had dismissed these rumors as mere superstition, but Naruto, ever the optimist, couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. If Orochimaru's up to something, we've got to stop him before it's too late, he declared, his voice brimming with determination. Sakura nodded in agreement, though her expression was tinged with unease. Sasuke remained silent, his thoughts hidden behind a mask of indifference. The trio's suspicions were confirmed when a messenger hawk arrived with an urgent missive from Tsunade. The scroll detailed reports of strange disturbances in the Forest of Death, a place infamous for its deadly creatures and treacherous terrain. Teams of shinobi sent to investigate had vanished without a trace, their last transmissions hinting at an unnatural force at work. This has Orochimaru written all over it, Sakura muttered, her fists clenching. Sasuke's Sharingan flickered as he spoke, his voice low and measured. If he's experimenting with time manipulation, the consequences could be catastrophic. We need to move quickly. Naruto grinned, his trademark confidence shining through. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go kick his snaky butt. As they ventured into the Forest of Death, the atmosphere grew oppressive. The dense canopy blocked out the sun, casting the forest floor in an eerie twilight. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the distant cries of unseen creatures sent shivers down their spines. Naruto took the lead, his senses heightened by years of training. Sakura followed closely, her medical ninjutsu skills at the ready, while Sasuke brought up the rear, his Sharingan scanning for any signs of danger. It wasn't long before they encountered their first obstacle, a massive serpent, its scales glistening with an unnatural sheen. The creature's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its movements were unnervingly precise, as if it were being controlled by an unseen force. Naruto didn't hesitate. Shadow Clone Jutsu, he shouted, creating a dozen clones that charged at the serpent with kunai in hand. The creature struck with terrifying speed, its fangs sinking into one of the clones, which dissolved into smoke. Sakura leapt into action, her chakra-infused fist slamming into the serpent's side with enough force to send it crashing into a tree. Sasuke, meanwhile, had already activated his Sharingan, analyzing the creature's movements. It's not just a summon, he observed. There's something else controlling it. With a swift motion, he unleashed a fireball jutsu, the flames engulfing the serpent and revealing a faint, glowing seal on its forehead. The seal pulsed with a sinister energy before shattering, and the serpent collapsed, lifeless. The trio pressed on, their senses on high alert. The deeper they went, the more the forest seemed to warp around them. Trees twisted unnaturally, and the passage of time itself felt distorted. Naruto's stomach churned as he realized they had been walking in circles. This isn't normal, Sakura said, her voice tense. It's like the forest is alive, and it's messing with our perception of time. Sasuke's Sharingan flared as he focused on the surrounding chakra. We're caught in a genjutsu, he said. But it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's not just visual, it's affecting our sense of time and space. Before they could devise a plan, a familiar voice echoed through the trees, dripping with malice. Well, if it isn't my favorite little lab rats, Orochimaru's voice taunted. The rogue ninja emerged from the shadows, his pale skin and golden eyes as unsettling as ever. His long, snake-like tongue flicked out as he smirked. I see you've stumbled into my little experiment. How delightful. Naruto's fists clenched as he stepped forward. What are you planning, Orochimaru? Whatever it is, we're gonna stop you, Orochimaru chuckled, his laughter sending a chill down their spines. Oh, Naruto, always so brash. But this time, you're in over your head. You see, I've unlocked the secrets of time itself. With this power, I can rewrite history, reshape the world to my liking. And you're just a minor inconvenience. The battle began in earnest, each member of Team 7 unleashing their full power. Naruto tapped into the Nine Tails chakra, his eyes turning red as a fiery aura surrounded him. He charged at Orochimaru with a Rasengan, the spinning sphere of chakra crackling with energy. Orochimaru dodged with ease, his movements unnaturally fluid. Sakura joined the fray, her fists glowing with chakra as she aimed for a devastating blow. Orochimaru countered with a barrage of snakes, their fangs dripping with venom. Sasuke, his Sharingan spinning rapidly, intercepted the attack with a Chidori, the lightning-infused strike cutting through the snakes with precision. As the battle raged on, Orochimaru's true power began to reveal itself. With a wave of his hand, he manipulated the flow of time around them, slowing their movements to a crawl. Naruto's Rasengan seemed to hang in mid-air, its energy dissipating before it could reach its target. Sakura's punches, once swift and deadly, now moved as if through molasses. Even Sasuke's Sharingan struggled to keep up with the distortion. Orochimaru's laughter echoed through the forest as he taunted them. You see? In the face of true power, you are nothing. Time bends to my will, and soon, so will the world. But Naruto, ever the embodiment of perseverance, refused to give up. Drawing on the Nine Tails chakra, he pushed against the time distortion, his movements regaining their speed. I don't care what kind of power you've got, Orochimaru. I'm not gonna let you win. With a roar, he unleashed a massive Rasengan, the force of the attack shattering the time distortion and sending Orochimaru skidding back. The rogue ninja's smirk faltered for the first time, replaced by a look of genuine surprise. Impressive, he admitted. But this is far from over. As Orochimaru retreated into the shadows, Team 7 regrouped, their breaths heavy but their resolve unshaken. The battle had revealed the true extent of Orochimaru's power, but it had also shown that they were not powerless against it. The forest around them began to return to normal, the distortions fading as Orochimaru's influence waned. But the encounter had left them with more questions than answers. What was Orochimaru's ultimate goal? And how far was he willing to go to achieve it? As they prepared to continue their mission, a sense of foreboding lingered in the air. The battle had only just begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. The fate of the world itself hung in the balance, and Team 7 knew they were the only ones who could stop Orochimaru's time-slithering curse. Naruto stood at the edge of the dense forest, his breath ragged, his fists clenched. The air was thick with the remnants of Orochimaru's cursed chakra, a sickly green mist that clung to the trees and distorted the moonlight. Behind him, Sakura and Sasuke were equally on edge, their eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the snake Sannin. The battle in Part 1 had left them battered but determined. Orochimaru's time-slithering curse had proven more insidious than they'd anticipated, warping time itself to slow their movements and accelerate his. Now, as the curse's effects began to ripple outward, threatening the surrounding villages, the stakes had escalated far beyond their personal vendettas. We can't let this curse spread any further, Sakura said, her voice steady but laced with urgency. She knelt to examine a patch of withered grass, her medical training kicking in. It's not just chakra disruption, it's consuming life energy. If it reaches the villages, it'll be catastrophic. Sasuke's Sharingan flickered as he analyzed the cursed mist. Orochimaru's playing a bigger game than we thought. This isn't just about us. He's using the curse to destabilize the entire region. Naruto gritted his teeth, his frustration boiling over. Then we stop him, no matter what. We can't let him get away with this. His voice echoed through the forest, but the silence that followed was unnerving. The curse seemed to absorb sound, leaving the world eerily muted. As they pressed forward, the forest grew darker, the trees twisting into grotesque shapes under the curse's influence. Suddenly, a low hiss echoed from the shadows, and a massive serpent emerged, its scales shimmering with the same green mist. Its eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence, and it lunged at them without warning. Naruto reacted instantly, forming a shadow clone to intercept the attack. The clone grabbed the serpent's fangs, holding them at bay, but the creature's strength was overwhelming. Sasuke, now, Naruto shouted. Sasuke's hands moved in a blur, weaving hand signs for a fire release, great fireball technique. The flames roared to life, engulfing the serpent, but instead of retreating, the creature seemed to absorb the fire, its scales glowing brighter. It's using the curse to manipulate our attacks. Sasuke growled, his Sharingan narrowing in frustration. Sakura stepped forward, her fists crackling with chakra. Let me try. She leapt into the air, delivering a devastating punch to the serpent's head. The impact sent shockwaves through the forest, but the creature barely flinched. Its tail whipped around, slamming into Sakura and sending her crashing into a tree. Naruto's eyes widened in concern. Sakura. He turned to Sasuke, his expression hardening. We need to work together. If our individual attacks aren't enough, we'll hit it with everything we've got. Sasuke nodded, his Sharingan spinning rapidly. Agreed. On my signal. Naruto formed a Rasengan in his hand, the swirling energy illuminating the darkness. Sasuke's Chidori crackled to life, the sound sharp and electric. They charged at the serpent from opposite sides, their attacks converging on its body. The impact was deafening, a burst of light and energy that tore through the forest. When the smoke cleared, the serpent lay motionless, its body disintegrating into the cursed mist. But their victory was short-lived. From the shadows, a familiar voice echoed, cold and mocking. Impressive teamwork, as always. But you're too late. Orochimaru emerged, his pale skin gleaming in the moonlight. His golden eyes glinted with malice as he raised a hand, the cursed mist swirling around him like a living entity. The time-slithering curse is already spreading. Soon, it will consume everything in its path. And you, my dear students, will be powerless to stop it. Naruto stepped forward, his voice defiant. We're not your students anymore, Orochimaru. And we're not going to let you destroy everything. Orochimaru's smile widened. Such bravado. But you underestimate the curse's true power. It doesn't just manipulate time, it feeds on it. Every second you waste fighting me brings the world closer to collapse. Sasuke's Sharingan locked onto Orochimaru, his expression dark. Then we'll end this quickly. Before they could attack, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The cursed mist thickened, forming a swirling vortex that pulled at their bodies. Naruto stumbled, feeling as though time itself was dragging him down. What the hell is this? He shouted, struggling to move. Orochimaru chuckled. The curse's final stage. Time itself is unraveling, and you're caught in its grip. Sakura's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. Naruto, Sasuke, focus. We need to disrupt the curse's core. If we can destabilize it, we might be able to reverse the effects. Naruto nodded, forcing himself to concentrate despite the overwhelming pressure. Right. Let's do this. Sasuke's Sharingan flared as he analyzed the vortex. There's a weak point in the center. If we hit it with enough force, we can break the curse. Naruto formed a shadow clone, the two of them charging Rasengans simultaneously. Sasuke's Chidori crackled with renewed intensity. Together, they launched their attacks at the vortex's core, the combined force creating a shockwave that tore through the cursed mist. For a moment, it seemed to work. The vortex began to collapse, the mist dissipating. But then, Orochimaru's laughter echoed through the forest, chilling and triumphant. Fools! Did you really think it would be that easy? The ground beneath them cracked, and a massive serpent burst forth, its body composed entirely of cursed mist. Its eyes glowed with the same malevolent intelligence as Orochimaru's, and its movements were unnaturally fast, warping time around it. Naruto's heart raced as he realized the truth. This isn't just a curse. It's him. Orochimaru's merged with it. Sasuke's expression darkened. That explains why our attacks weren't working. We're not just fighting the curse, we're fighting Orochimaru's essence. Sakura clenched her fists, her determination unwavering. Then we'll have to hit him harder than ever before. No holding back. The battle intensified, the forest becoming a chaotic battlefield of shifting time and devastating attacks. Naruto's shadow clones swarmed the serpent, each one delivering powerful strikes, but the creature's temporal manipulation made it nearly impossible to land a hit. Sasuke's Sharingan allowed him to predict its movements, but even he struggled to keep up with its speed. Sakura focused on disrupting the curse's energy, her chakra-enhanced punches creating shockwaves that destabilized the mist. But every time they seemed to gain the upper hand, Orochimaru's voice taunted them, his presence a constant reminder of the stakes. As the battle raged on, a new threat emerged. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, their face obscured by a hood. You're wasting your time, the figure said, their voice cold and detached. The curse is beyond your control. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Who are you? The figure lowered their hood, revealing a face that sent a chill through the team. It was Kabuto, Orochimaru's former subordinate, but his eyes glowed with the same cursed energy. I've come to ensure the curse's completion. You can't stop what's already begun. Sasuke's Sharingan narrowed. Kabuto. What have you done? Kabuto's smile was devoid of warmth. I've embraced the curse's power. And soon, you'll understand its true potential. The team exchanged uneasy glances. With Orochimaru's essence merged with the curse and Kabuto's betrayal adding a new layer of danger, the situation had become more dire than ever. But despite the overwhelming odds, Naruto's resolve burned brighter than ever. We're not giving up. No matter what it takes, we'll stop this curse and protect everyone. As the battle reached its climax, the forest trembled under the weight of their combined power. The stakes had never been higher, and the team's bond would be tested like never before. But one thing was certain, they would fight until the very end, no matter the cost. The forest was alive with tension, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint metallic tang of chakra. Naruto and his team moved cautiously through the dense undergrowth, their eyes scanning for any sign of Orochimaru's cursed seals. The mission had already taken a toll on them. Sakura's healing reserves were running low, Sasuke's Sharingan flickered with fatigue, and Naruto's usual exuberance was tempered by the weight of their task. They had faced Orochimaru's twisted jutsu before, but this time, something felt different. The curse they were tracking wasn't just a trap, it was a ticking clock, and they were running out of time. As they approached a clearing, the faint sound of rustling leaves caught Naruto's attention. He raised a hand, signaling the team to halt. Something's not right, he muttered, his voice low but urgent. Before anyone could respond, a figure dropped from the trees above, landing gracefully in the center of the clearing. The newcomer was a young woman, her long silver hair catching the sunlight like strands of moonlight. Her eyes, a piercing shade of violet, locked onto Naruto with an intensity that made him instinctively take a step back. She wore a sleeveless black bodysuit adorned with intricate silver patterns, and a tanto blade rested at her hip. Her presence was both alluring and unsettling, like a storm on the horizon. "Who are you?" Sasuke demanded, his hand already reaching for a kunai. The woman smirked, her lips curling into a sly grin. "Name's Ayame," she said, her voice smooth but laced with an edge. "And I'm here to make sure you don't mess this up." Naruto frowned, his brow furrowing in confusion. "Mess what up?" "We're here to stop Orochimaru's curse before it spreads." Ayame tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Oh, you're here to stop it, all right. But not the way you think." Before anyone could press her further, the ground beneath them began to tremble, and a swarm of cursed seals erupted from the earth, their dark tendrils writhing like serpents. "Incoming," Sakura shouted, leaping back as one of the tendrils lashed out at her. Naruto and Sasuke sprang into action, their movements a blur of orange and black. Naruto formed a shadow clone, sending it charging toward the nearest seal, while Sasuke activated his Sharingan, analyzing the patterns of the cursed energy. Ayame, however, didn't move. She stood calmly in the center of the chaos, her violet eyes glowing faintly. As a tendril shot toward her, she unsheathed her tanto with a fluid motion, slicing through the darkness with precision. The cursed seal dissipated into smoke, but more were already closing in. "You're not bad," Naruto called out, his tone a mix of admiration and suspicion. "But we don't have time for games." "Who are you really?" Ayame glanced at him, her smirk widening. "Let's just say I have a vested interest in Orochimaru's curse. And right now, you're in my way." Before Naruto could respond, she darted forward, her tanto flashing as she cut through another wave of seals. Her movements were unlike anything they'd seen before, graceful yet deadly, each strike calculated and efficient. But her motives remained a mystery, and that made her dangerous. As the battle raged on, the team's cohesion began to falter. Sasuke, ever the lone wolf, broke away from the group, his Sharingan focused on Ayame. "You're hiding something," he accused, his voice cold. "And I'm not letting you interfere," Ayame chuckled, her blade clashing with Sasuke's kunai in a shower of sparks. "Interfere? If anything, I'm the one keeping you alive." Her words were cryptic, but there was no time to decipher them. The cursed seals were multiplying, their dark energy threatening to overwhelm them. Naruto, sensing the growing tension, tried to rally the team. "We need to work together. Whatever's going on, we can figure it out later." But his words fell on deaf ears. Sasuke and Ayame were locked in a fierce duel, their attacks growing more intense with each exchange. Sasuke's Chidori crackled in his hand, its blue light illuminating the clearing, while Ayame's tanto seemed to hum with a strange, otherworldly energy. Their clash sent shockwaves through the air, forcing Naruto and Sakura to shield themselves from the debris. Sakura, ever the voice of reason, stepped forward, her fists glowing with chakra. "Enough. We're not going to get anywhere if we're fighting each other." But her plea was cut short as a massive curse seal erupted from the ground, its form shifting into a monstrous serpent. The creature's eyes glowed with malevolence, and its fangs dripped with venom. Naruto gritted his teeth, summoning his Rasengan. "Looks like we've got bigger problems," he shouted, charging toward the serpent. The battle that followed was a chaotic symphony of light and shadow. Naruto's Rasengan collided with the serpent's head, sending shockwaves through the clearing. Sasuke and Ayame, momentarily setting aside their rivalry, joined the fray, their combined attacks forcing the creature to retreat. But it wasn't enough. The serpent's dark energy was too powerful, its movements too unpredictable. Just as it seemed they were about to be overwhelmed, Ayame stepped forward, her violet eyes blazing. "Stand back," she commanded, her voice firm. Before anyone could argue, she raised her tanto, and the blade began to glow with a strange, silvery light. With a single, fluid motion, she slashed through the serpent, the cursed energy dissipating into nothingness. The clearing fell silent, the tension palpable. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged wary glances, while Sakura looked at Ayame with a mixture of awe and suspicion. "What was that?" Naruto asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Ayame sheathed her tanto, her expression unreadable. "A gift," she said simply. "One that comes with a price." Before anyone could press her further, she turned and walked away, her silver hair shimmering in the fading light. "Wait!" Naruto called out, but she was already gone, leaving them with more questions than answers. As the team regrouped, the weight of the encounter settled over them. Ayame's arrival had shifted the dynamics of their mission, introducing new motives and hidden ties that complicated their plans. Her power was undeniable, but her intentions were shrouded in mystery. And as they continued their journey, one thing was clear: the battle against Orochimaru's curse was far from over, and Ayame was a wild card they couldn't afford to ignore. The forest seemed to close in around them, its shadows whispering secrets they weren't yet ready to hear. The clock was still ticking, and the stakes had never been higher. The forest was eerily silent, the kind of silence that pressed against Naruto's eardrums like a physical weight. The air was thick with the acrid stench of chakra, a lingering reminder of Orochimaru's curse technique. Naruto's breath came in ragged gasps as he crouched behind a gnarled tree, his fingers tightening around the hilt of a kunai. His heart pounded in his chest, not just from exhaustion, but from the gnawing dread that had settled in his gut. Orochimaru's time-slithering curse was more than just a jutsu, it was a malevolent force that twisted time itself, bending reality to the snake Sanin's will. And now, Naruto was trapped in its web. Sasuke stood a few feet away, his Sharingan flickering as he scanned the shadows. His expression was unreadable, but Naruto could sense the tension in his stance. They had been fighting Orochimaru's forces for hours, but the enemy seemed endless, their numbers replenished by the curse's temporal distortions. Every time they thought they had gained the upper hand, time would unravel, and the battle would reset. It was maddening, and Naruto could feel his frustration boiling over. "We can't keep doing this," Naruto growled, his voice low but edged with desperation. "We're just going in circles." Sasuke didn't respond immediately. His eyes narrowed as he focused on a faint ripple in the air, a telltale sign of the curse's influence. "We need to find the source," he said finally, his tone clipped. "If we can disrupt the curse's anchor, we might be able to break free." Naruto nodded, though the idea of facing Orochimaru directly sent a chill down his spine. The snake Sanin was a monster, a predator who reveled in toying with his prey. But they had no choice. If they didn't act soon, the curse would consume them completely, trapping them in an endless loop of battle and despair. As they moved deeper into the forest, the atmosphere grew heavier, the shadows twisting and writhing like living things. Naruto's senses were on high alert, every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig setting his nerves on edge. He could feel the curse's influence pressing against his mind, whispering insidious thoughts that threatened to unravel his resolve. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus. He couldn't afford to lose control, not now. Suddenly, Sasuke stopped, his Sharingan flaring as he raised a hand to signal Naruto. "Get down," he hissed. Naruto dropped to the ground just as a barrage of senbone needles whistled through the air, embedding themselves in the tree trunk where his head had been moments before. He rolled to his feet, his eyes scanning the darkness for the attacker. A figure emerged from the shadows, their movements fluid and predatory. It was Kabuto, his glasses glinting in the dim light, a smirk playing on his lips. Well, Kabuto said, his voice dripping with mockery. "If it isn't the dynamic duo. I have to admit, I'm impressed you've lasted this long. But I'm afraid your little rebellion ends here." Naruto's jaw tightened, his grip on the kunai tightening. "We'll see about that," he shot back, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. The battle erupted in a blur of motion. Naruto charged forward, his kunai flashing as he aimed for Kabuto's throat. Kabuto sidestepped with ease, his movements almost too fast to follow. He retaliated with a swift kick that sent Naruto sprawling, the breath knocked out of him. Sasuke was there in an instant, his Sharingan tracking Kabuto's movements as he launched a flurry of shuriken. Kabuto deflected them with a wave of his hand, his smirk never wavering. "Is that all you've got?" Kabuto taunted, his voice laced with amusement. "I expected more from the Uchiha prodigy." Sasuke's eyes narrowed, his expression darkening. He formed a series of hand seals, his chakra flaring as he unleashed a fireball jutsu. The flames roared through the air, illuminating the forest in a brilliant orange glow. Kabuto leapt back, his hands moving in a blur as he countered with a water-style technique, the two elements colliding in a burst of steam. Naruto seized the opportunity, channeling his chakra as he summoned a shadow clone. The clone charged at Kabuto, drawing his attention while Naruto circled around, his hands forming the familiar seal for the Rasengan. He could feel the energy swirling in his palm, the familiar hum of power that had carried him through so many battles. But as he lunged forward, Kabuto's eyes flicked toward him, a knowing smile spreading across his face. "Too slow," Kabuto said, his voice calm and measured. Before Naruto could react, Kabuto's hand shot out, his fingers curling around Naruto's wrist. The Rasengan dissipated in a burst of energy, and Naruto felt a sharp pain shoot up his arm as Kabuto twisted his wrist with unnatural strength. He cried out, his vision swimming as Kabuto's other hand slammed into his chest, sending him crashing to the ground. Sasuke was there in an instant, his sword flashing as he aimed for Kabuto's throat. But Kabuto was faster, his movements almost inhuman as he dodged the blade and countered with a vicious strike to Sasuke's ribs. Sasuke staggered, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he struggled to stay on his feet. Naruto pushed himself up, his body aching from the impact. He could feel the curse's influence growing stronger, the whispers in his mind becoming more insistent. He shook his head, trying to clear the fog, but it was no use. The curse was relentless, its grip tightening with every passing moment. As Kabuto advanced, his smirk widening, Naruto felt a surge of desperation. They were outmatched, their attacks useless against Kabuto's superior speed and skill. But then, a thought occurred to him, a reckless idea that might just give them the edge they needed. "Sasuke," Naruto said, his voice low but urgent. "We need to combine our attacks. If we hit him with everything we've got, maybe we can break through." Sasuke glanced at him, his Sharingan flickering as he processed the suggestion. After a moment, he nodded, his expression grim. "Do it." Naruto took a deep breath, channeling his chakra as he summoned a swarm of shadow clones. The clones charged at Kabuto, their movements chaotic and unpredictable. Kabuto's smirk faltered for a moment as he tried to keep track of them, his hands moving in a blur as he dispatched clone after clone. But Naruto wasn't aiming to overwhelm him, he was buying time. Sasuke's eyes narrowed as he formed a series of hand seals, his chakra flaring as he unleashed his most powerful technique. The air around him crackled with energy as a massive dragon made of lightning materialized, its roar echoing through the forest. Naruto felt a surge of hope as he saw the technique, his own hands moving to form the Rasengan once more. Kabuto's eyes widened as he realized what was happening, but it was too late. Sasuke's lightning dragon surged forward, its jaws snapping as it closed the distance. At the same time, Naruto lunged, his Rasengan glowing with raw power. The two attacks collided with Kabuto in a blinding explosion of light and energy, the force of the impact sending shockwaves through the forest. For a moment, there was silence, the air thick with the acrid smell of burnt ozone. Naruto and Sasuke stood side by side, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they waited for the dust to settle. But as the smoke cleared, their hopes were dashed. Kabuto stood amidst the wreckage, his body unscathed. His smirk had returned, wider and more sinister than before. "Impressive," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "But not nearly enough." Naruto's heart sank as he realized the truth. Kabuto wasn't just strong, he was invincible. The curse had made him untouchable, his body protected by the same temporal distortions that had trapped them in this endless battle. They were fighting a losing war, and there was no way out. But then, a voice cut through the silence, cold and commanding. "Enough." Naruto's head snapped up, his eyes widening as he saw Orochimaru step out of the shadows. The snake Sanin's golden eyes glinted with malice, his smile sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. "You've put up a good fight," Orochimaru said, his voice smooth and mocking. "But it's time to end this." Naruto felt a surge of fear as Orochimaru raised his hand, his chakra flaring with malevolent energy. But before he could unleash his attack, Sasuke stepped forward, his Sharingan blazing with determination. "Naruto," Sasuke said, his voice low but firm. "I'll hold him off. You need to find the anchor and destroy it." Naruto's eyes widened in shock. "What? No. I'm not leaving you." Sasuke's expression hardened, his gaze locking with Naruto's. "This is the only way. Trust me." Naruto hesitated, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't want to leave Sasuke behind, but he knew there was no other choice. If they didn't break the curse, they were all doomed. With a reluctant nod, he turned and sprinted into the forest, his mind racing as he tried to figure out where the anchor could be. As he ran, he could hear the sounds of battle behind him, the clash of steel and the roar of jutsu echoing through the trees. He pushed himself harder, his legs burning with exertion as he searched for any sign of the anchor. But the forest seemed endless, the shadows twisting and shifting as the curse's influence grew stronger. Just as he was about to give up hope, he saw it, a faint glow emanating from a clearing up ahead. His heart leapt as he realized what it was. The anchor. The source of the curse's power. But as he approached, a figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking his path. It was Sakura, her eyes glazed over and her movements stiff and unnatural. Naruto's breath caught in his throat as he realized the truth. Sakura had been ensnared by the curse, her mind twisted by Orochimaru's influence. "Sakura," Naruto said, his voice trembling. "It's me. It's Naruto." Sakura didn't respond, her expression blank as she raised her fists. Naruto's heart ached as he realized what he had to do. He didn't want to fight her, but he had no choice. If he didn't destroy the anchor, they would all be lost. With a heavy heart, Naruto charged forward, his fists clenched as he prepared for the fight of his life. The stakes had never been higher, and the cost of failure was unthinkable. But he couldn't give up. Not now. Not ever. As the battle raged on, Naruto knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. The true test of their resolve was yet to come, and the price of victory would be higher than any of them could imagine. The air was thick with tension as Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke stood amidst the ruins of the Hidden Leaf Village, their breaths ragged and their bodies battered. Orochimaru's time-slithering curse had taken its toll, warping the fabric of reality and plunging the world into chaos. The curse had accelerated time itself, aging the land and its people at an alarming rate. Villages crumbled, forests withered, and even the strongest ninja felt their vitality draining away. The stakes had never been higher, and the clock was ticking louder than ever. Naruto clenched his fists, his eyes blazing with determination. "We can't let this go on any longer. If we don't stop Orochimaru, there won't be a world left to save." Sakura nodded, her medical ninjutsu glowing faintly as she tended to Sasuke's injuries. "We need a plan, and fast. This curse isn't just affecting the environment, it's destabilizing chakra itself. If we don't act soon, even our techniques might fail us." Sasuke, though weakened, smirked faintly. "Then we'll have to get creative. Orochimaru's curse is powerful, but it's not invincible. We just need to find its weakness." The trio retreated to a hidden cave deep within the mountains, a place untouched by the curse's effects. There, they began their training, pushing their limits to prepare for the final confrontation. Naruto focused on mastering the Sage Mode, drawing on the natural energy that still lingered in pockets of the world. Sakura honed her chakra control, experimenting with new medical techniques that could counteract the curse's effects. Sasuke, meanwhile, delved into the depths of his Sharingan, seeking a way to manipulate time itself, even if only for a moment. Days turned into nights as they trained relentlessly, their bond growing stronger with each passing hour. They sparred with one another, testing new tactics and combining their strengths in ways they had never attempted before. Naruto's shadow clones worked in tandem with Sasuke's fire-style jutsu, creating a devastating combination of speed and power. Sakura's precise strikes and healing abilities kept them in the fight, even as the curse's influence threatened to overwhelm them. But training alone wasn't enough. They needed allies. Naruto reached out to the remnants of the Hidden Leaf, rallying shinobi who were still willing to fight. Among them was Shikamaru, whose strategic mind proved invaluable in devising a plan to confront Orochimaru. "The curse is centered around a time distortion field," Shikamaru explained, his fingers tracing lines on a makeshift map. "If we can disrupt that field, even for a moment, it might give us an opening to strike." Gaara, the Kazekage, arrived with reinforcements from the Sand Village, his mastery over sand providing a unique advantage against the curse's effects. "We'll hold the line," Gaara said, his voice calm but resolute. But you'll need to be the ones to deliver the final blow. As the alliance formed, Orochimaru's forces grew bolder. Kabuto, now fully consumed by the curse's power, led an army of reanimated shinobi and cursed beasts, their twisted forms a testament to the curse's devastation. The final battle loomed on the horizon, and the heroes knew they had only one chance to succeed. The fight began at dawn, the sky painted in hues of red and gold as the two forces clashed. Naruto led the charge, his Sage Mode amplifying his strength as he unleashed a barrage of Rasengan attacks. Sasuke's Sharingan flickered as he countered Kabuto's techniques, his movements precise and deadly. Sakura fought alongside them, her fists shattering the ground with each strike, creating fissures that swallowed their enemies whole. But Orochimaru was not so easily defeated. Emerging from the shadows, he unleashed the full power of the time-slithering curse, distorting the battlefield and warping time itself. Trees aged and crumbled in seconds, and the ground shifted unpredictably, creating deadly hazards. Naruto and Sasuke were forced to adapt, using the environment to their advantage. Naruto's clones lured enemies into unstable terrain, while Sasuke used his fire-style jutsu to ignite the withered trees, creating walls of flame that slowed the enemy's advance. As the battle raged on, Sakura made a startling discovery. The curse's core is unstable, she shouted over the chaos. If we can overload it with chakra, we might be able to break it. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged a glance, a plan forming in their minds. We'll need to combine our techniques, Sasuke said, his voice steady despite the exhaustion in his eyes. But it's risky. If we fail, the backlash could destroy us. There was no time to hesitate. Naruto and Sasuke moved into position, their chakra intertwining as they prepared their most powerful techniques. Naruto summoned the Nine Tails chakra, his body glowing with an intense golden light. Sasuke's Sharingan spun rapidly, his Susanoo forming around him like a protective shell. Together, they unleashed a combined attack, a massive Rasengan infused with Amaterasu flames, hurtling toward the curse's core. The impact was deafening, a blinding explosion of light and energy that shook the very foundations of the earth. For a moment, it seemed as though the curse had been broken. But then, Orochimaru emerged from the smoke, his laughter echoing across the battlefield. "Foolish children," he sneered. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" The heroes were battered but not broken. As Orochimaru prepared to deliver the final blow, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura stood together, their resolve unshaken. They had faced overwhelming odds before, and they would do so again. This was their world, their fight, and they would not let it end here. The final battle was far from over, and the heroes were ready to give it everything they had. The stakes had never been higher, but neither had their determination. The clock was still ticking, but they were not out of time, not yet. The air crackled with tension as Naruto stood face to face with Orochimaru, the sinister grin of the snake Sannin stretching wide across his pale face. The battlefield was a chaotic mess of shattered trees, scorched earth, and the remnants of shadow clones that had already fallen in the earlier skirmishes. Orochimaru's time-slithering curse pulsed ominously, distorting the very fabric of time around him, making his movements unpredictable and his attacks nearly impossible to counter. Naruto's fists clenched, his knuckles white as he gritted his teeth, his resolve hardening. He could feel the Nine Tails chakra surging within him, a fiery tempest begging to be unleashed. "This ends now, Orochimaru," Naruto roared, his voice echoing across the battlefield as he charged forward, his body a blur of orange and yellow. Orochimaru's laughter was cold and mocking as he raised a hand, the air around him shimmering as the time-slithering curse activated. Naruto's movement slowed, his speed reduced to a crawl as time itself seemed to bend to Orochimaru's will. But Naruto wasn't about to be outdone. With a guttural yell, he tapped deeper into the Nine Tails chakra, his body erupting in a fiery aura that burned away the temporal distortion. His speed returned in an instant, and he closed the distance between them in a flash, his Rasengan spinning violently in his palm. Orochimaru's eyes widened in surprise, but he was quick to react, his body contorting unnaturally as he dodged the attack with a fluid, serpentine motion. "Impressive, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru hissed, his voice dripping with malice. "But you'll need more than brute force to defeat me." The battle intensified as the two clashed again, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Naruto's Rasengan collided with Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade, the clash sending shockwaves rippling through the air. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, unable to withstand the sheer force of their power. Naruto gritted his teeth, pushing harder as he tried to overpower Orochimaru, but the Sannin was relentless, his blade twisting and turning with deadly accuracy. With a sudden burst of speed, Orochimaru disengaged, his body twisting in midair as he launched a barrage of kunai infused with cursed seals. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he dodged and weaved through the projectiles, his movements precise and calculated. But Orochimaru wasn't done yet. With a flick of his wrist, the kunai exploded in a burst of dark energy, forcing Naruto to leap back to avoid the blast. Naruto landed in a crouch, his breathing heavy but his determination unwavering. He knew he couldn't keep up this pace forever. Orochimaru was toying with him, testing his limits, and Naruto couldn't afford to play into his hands. He needed a new strategy, something that would catch Orochimaru off guard. As if sensing his thoughts, Kurama's voice echoed in his mind. "You're holding back, brat. If you want to win, you'll need to go all out." Naruto's eyes hardened as he nodded, his body surging with even more chakra. The ground beneath him cracked as he launched himself forward, his speed surpassing anything he had shown before. Orochimaru's eyes widened as Naruto appeared in front of him in an instant, his Rasengan already spinning in his hand. The attack connected, sending Orochimaru flying backward, but the Sannin twisted in mid-air, landing gracefully on his feet. "Not bad," Orochimaru admitted, his voice tinged with amusement. "But you'll need more than that to defeat me." With a wave of his hand, the ground beneath Naruto erupted in a swarm of snakes, their fangs bared as they lunged at him. Naruto's eyes widened as he leapt into the air, his hands forming a series of hand seals. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," he shouted, creating a dozen clones that immediately engaged the snakes, their kunai flashing as they cut through the serpents with precision. Naruto landed on the ground, his eyes locked on Orochimaru as he prepared his next move. He knew he couldn't rely on brute force alone. Orochimaru was too cunning, too adaptable. He needed to outthink him. With a sudden burst of inspiration, Naruto formed another set of hand seals, his clones mimicking his movements. "Wind style, Rasen Shuriken," he shouted, the clones converging on Orochimaru from all sides, their Rasen Shurikens spinning violently as they closed in. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attacks. But Naruto had anticipated this. With a swift motion, he launched himself forward, his Rasen Shuriken aimed directly at Orochimaru's chest. The Sannin's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. With a desperate move, he raised his Kusanagi blade, the cursed energy within it flaring to life as he attempted to block the attack. The collision was deafening, the shockwave sending both combatants flying in opposite directions. Naruto skidded to a halt, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He could see Orochimaru struggling to his feet, his once pristine robes now tattered and torn. The Sannin's expression was one of pure rage, his eyes burning with hatred as he glared at Naruto. "You've grown stronger, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "But you're still a child playing at being a shinobi." With a sudden burst of speed, Orochimaru closed the distance between them, his Kusanagi blade flashing as he aimed a deadly strike at Naruto's heart. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. But before the blade could connect, a sudden burst of chakra erupted from within him, his body enveloped in a fiery aura as the Nine Tails' power surged to the surface. The blade struck, but it was deflected by the sheer force of Naruto's chakra, sending Orochimaru stumbling backward. Naruto's eyes glowed with a fierce determination as he stepped forward, his body radiating power. "This isn't just about me," Naruto said, his voice steady and strong. "This is about protecting everyone I care about. And I won't let you hurt them." With a roar, Naruto launched himself forward, his body a blur of speed and power. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attack. But Naruto was relentless, his movements precise and calculated as he pressed the attack. The two clashed again, their movements a blur of speed and precision as they traded blows, each one more powerful than the last. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, unable to withstand the sheer force of their power. Naruto's Rasengan collided with Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade, the clash sending shockwaves rippling through the air. But Naruto wasn't done yet. With a sudden burst of speed, he disengaged, his body twisting in midair as he launched a barrage of shadow clones at Orochimaru. The clones converged on the Sannin from all sides, their attacks coordinated and precise. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attacks. But Naruto had anticipated this. With a swift motion, he launched himself forward, his Rasengan aimed directly at Orochimaru's chest. The Sannin's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. With a desperate move, he raised his Kusanagi blade, the cursed energy within it flaring to life as he attempted to block the attack. The collision was deafening, the shockwave sending both combatants flying in opposite directions. Naruto skidded to a halt, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He could see Orochimaru struggling to his feet, his once pristine robes now tattered and torn. The Sannin's expression was one of pure rage, his eyes burning with hatred as he glared at Naruto. "You've grown stronger, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "But you're still a child playing at being a shinobi." With a sudden burst of speed, Orochimaru closed the distance between them, his kusanagi blade flashing as he aimed a deadly strike at Naruto's heart. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. But before the blade could connect, a sudden burst of chakra erupted from within him, his body enveloped in a fiery aura as the Nine Tails' power surged to the surface. The blade struck, but it was deflected by the sheer force of Naruto's chakra, sending Orochimaru stumbling backward. Naruto's eyes glowed with a fierce determination as he stepped forward, his body radiating power. "This isn't just about me," Naruto said, his voice steady and strong. "This is about protecting everyone I care about. And I won't let you hurt them." With a roar, Naruto launched himself forward, his body a blur of speed and power. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attack. But Naruto was relentless, his movements precise and calculated as he pressed the attack. The two clashed again, their movements a blur of speed and precision as they traded blows, each one more powerful than the last. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, unable to withstand the sheer force of their power. Naruto's Rasengan collided with Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade, the clash sending shockwaves rippling through the air. But Naruto wasn't done yet. With a sudden burst of speed, he disengaged, his body twisting in midair as he launched a barrage of shadow clones at Orochimaru. The clones converged on the Sannin from all sides, their attacks coordinated and precise. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attacks. But Naruto had anticipated this. With a swift motion, he launched himself forward, his Rasengan aimed directly at Orochimaru's chest. The Sannin's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. With a desperate move, he raised his Kusanagi blade, the cursed energy within it flaring to life as he attempted to block the attack. The collision was deafening, the shockwave sending both combatants flying in opposite directions. Naruto skidded to a halt, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He could see Orochimaru struggling to his feet, his once pristine robes now tattered and torn. The Sannin's expression was one of pure rage, his eyes burning with hatred as he glared at Naruto. "You've grown stronger, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "But you're still a child playing at being a shinobi." With a sudden burst of speed, Orochimaru closed the distance between them, his Kusanagi blade flashing as he aimed a deadly strike at Naruto's heart. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. But before the blade could connect, a sudden burst of chakra erupted from within him, his body enveloped in a fiery aura as the Nine Tails' power surged to the surface. The blade struck, but it was deflected by the sheer force of Naruto's chakra, sending Orochimaru stumbling backward. Naruto's eyes glowed with a fierce determination as he stepped forward, his body radiating power. "This isn't just about me," Naruto said, his voice steady and strong. "This is about protecting everyone I care about. And I won't let you hurt them." With a roar, Naruto launched himself forward, his body a blur of speed and power. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attack. But Naruto was relentless, his movements precise and calculated as he pressed the attack. The two clashed again, their movements a blur of speed and precision as they traded blows, each one more powerful than the last. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, unable to withstand the sheer force of their power. Naruto's Rasengan collided with Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade, the clash sending shockwaves rippling through the air. But Naruto wasn't done yet. With a sudden burst of speed, he disengaged, his body twisting in midair as he launched a barrage of shadow clones at Orochimaru. The clones converged on the Sannin from all sides, their attacks coordinated and precise. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attacks. But Naruto had anticipated this. With a swift motion, he launched himself forward, his Rasengan aimed directly at Orochimaru's chest. The Sannin's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. With a desperate move, he raised his Kusanagi blade, the cursed energy within it flaring to life as he attempted to block the attack. The collision was deafening, the shockwave sending both combatants flying in opposite directions. Naruto skidded to a halt, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He could see Orochimaru struggling to his feet, his once pristine robes now tattered and torn. The Sannin's expression was one of pure rage, his eyes burning with hatred as he glared at Naruto. "You've grown stronger, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "But you're still a child playing at being a shinobi." With a sudden burst of speed, Orochimaru closed the distance between them, his kusanagi blade flashing as he aimed a deadly strike at Naruto's heart. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. But before the blade could connect, a sudden burst of chakra erupted from within him, his body enveloped in a fiery aura as the Nine Tails' power surged to the surface. The blade struck, but it was deflected by the sheer force of Naruto's chakra, sending Orochimaru stumbling backward. Naruto's eyes glowed with a fierce determination as he stepped forward, his body radiating power. "This isn't just about me," Naruto said, his voice steady and strong. "This is about protecting everyone I care about. And I won't let you hurt them." With a roar, Naruto launched himself forward, his body a blur of speed and power. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attack. But Naruto was relentless, his movements precise and calculated as he pressed the attack. The two clashed again, their movements a blur of speed and precision as they traded blows, each one more powerful than the last. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, unable to withstand the sheer force of their power. Naruto's Rasengan collided with Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade, the clash sending shockwaves rippling through the air. But Naruto wasn't done yet. With a sudden burst of speed, he disengaged, his body twisting in midair as he launched a barrage of shadow clones at Orochimaru. The clones converged on the Sannin from all sides, their attacks coordinated and precise. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attacks. But Naruto had anticipated this. With a swift motion, he launched himself forward, his Rasengan aimed directly at Orochimaru's chest. The Sannin's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. With a desperate move, he raised his Kusanagi blade, the cursed energy within it flaring to life as he attempted to block the attack. The collision was deafening, the shockwave sending both combatants flying in opposite directions. Naruto skidded to a halt, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He could see Orochimaru struggling to his feet, his once pristine robes now tattered and torn. The Sannin's expression was one of pure rage, his eyes burning with hatred as he glared at Naruto. "You've grown stronger, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "But you're still a child playing at being a shinobi." With a sudden burst of speed, Orochimaru closed the distance between them, his Kusanagi blade flashing as he aimed a deadly strike at Naruto's heart. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized he couldn't dodge in time. But before the blade could connect, a sudden burst of chakra erupted from within him, his body enveloped in a fiery aura as the Nine Tails' power surged to the surface. The blade struck, but it was deflected by the sheer force of Naruto's chakra, sending Orochimaru stumbling backward. Naruto's eyes glowed with a fierce determination as he stepped forward, his body radiating power. "This isn't just about me," Naruto said, his voice steady and strong. "This is about protecting everyone I care about. And I won't let you hurt them." With a roar, Naruto launched himself forward, his body a blur of speed and power. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attack. But Naruto was relentless, his movements precise and calculated as he pressed the attack. The two clashed again, their movements a blur of speed and precision as they traded blows, each one more powerful than the last. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, unable to withstand the sheer force of their power. Naruto's Rasengan collided with Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade, the clash sending shockwaves rippling through the air. But Naruto wasn't done yet. With a sudden burst of speed, he disengaged, his body twisting in midair as he launched a barrage of shadow clones at Orochimaru. The clones converged on the Sannin from all sides, their attacks coordinated and precise. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed as he realized the danger, his body twisting and turning as he tried to evade the attacks. But Naruto had anticipated this. With a swift motion, he launched himself forward, his Rasengan aimed directly at Orochimaru's chest. The battlefield was a chaotic storm of chakra, debris, and desperation. Naruto Uzumaki, battered and bleeding, stood at the center of it all, his Nine Tails cloak flickering like a dying flame. Orochimaru loomed before him, his serpentine form twisting through the air, his time-slithering curse weaving a web of temporal distortion that threatened to unravel reality itself. The curse had already fractured the timeline, creating ripples that altered the past and future, and Naruto knew this was the final stand, the moment that would determine the fate of the shinobi world. Orochimaru's laughter echoed like a venomous hiss. "You're too late, Naruto. The curse is complete. Time itself bends to my will." His eyes glowed with an unnatural light as he raised his hand, summoning a vortex of swirling energy that pulled at the very fabric of existence. The ground beneath them cracked, and the sky above darkened as the curse's power reached its zenith. Naruto clenched his fists, his breath ragged but his resolve unshaken. "I won't let you destroy everything. I'll break this curse, no matter what it takes." He channeled every ounce of chakra he had left, his nine tails cloak flaring brighter as he entered sage mode. The natural energy of the world surged around him, merging with the fiery chakra of the nine tails. His eyes glowed with determination as he prepared for the final clash. The two titans collided in a burst of light and sound, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Orochimaru's cursed energy lashed out like a whip, slicing through the air and forcing Naruto to dodge with split-second timing. Naruto countered with a Rasen Shuriken, the spiraling energy blade cutting through the curse's temporal distortions. The explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield, but Orochimaru merely smirked, his body reforming from the damage as if time itself rewound his injuries. "You can't win, Naruto," Orochimaru taunted, his voice dripping with malice. "Every strike you land, every wound you inflict, is undone by the curse. You're fighting against time itself." Naruto gritted his teeth, his mind racing. He knew Orochimaru was right, the curse made him nearly invincible. But then, a memory flashed in his mind, a conversation with Jiraiya, his mentor, who had once told him, "True strength isn't just about power. It's about understanding your enemy and finding a way to outsmart them." Naruto's eyes widened as an idea took shape. He couldn't overpower the curse, but maybe he could disrupt it. Summoning a shadow clone, Naruto charged forward, his clone mirroring his movements. Orochimaru sneered, confident in his invincibility, but Naruto's clone suddenly veered off, slamming its hands into the ground. Earth-style, mud wall. The ground erupted, creating a barrier that momentarily blocked Orochimaru's line of sight. In that split second, Naruto unleashed a barrage of kunai, each one tagged with a sealing formula. The kunai embedded themselves into the ground around Orochimaru, forming an intricate pattern. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed as he realized what Naruto was attempting. A sealing jutsu? "Foolish boy, do you think you can trap me?" He raised his hand to dispel the seals, but Naruto was already moving, his hands forming a rapid series of hand signs. Wind style, Rasen Shuriken barrage. Multiple Rasen Shuriken materialized around him, each one spinning with lethal precision. With a roar, Naruto launched them all at once, the spiraling blades converging on Orochimaru from every angle. The explosion was deafening, the force of the impact tearing through the battlefield. But as the dust settled, Orochimaru emerged, his body flickering as the curse rewound his injuries once more. "Is that all you've got?" He sneered, but his smirk faltered as he noticed the seals on the ground glowing brighter. Naruto stood at the center of the pattern, his hands pressed together in a final hand sign. Sealing jutsu, temporal lock. The seals erupted with light, forming a cage of energy that trapped Orochimaru within. The curse's temporal distortions faltered, the flow of time stabilizing as the seals disrupted its power. Orochimaru roared in frustration, his body writhing as he tried to break free, but the seals held firm. "Impossible. How did you?" Naruto's voice was steady, his eyes burning with resolve. "I figured it out. Your curse manipulates time, but it's still tied to chakra. By disrupting the flow of chakra around you, I can weaken the curse's hold. It's over, Orochimaru." Orochimaru's eyes widened in realization, but before he could respond, Naruto unleashed one final attack. Rasengan, Supernova. A massive sphere of chakra formed in his hand, its power amplified by the nine tails in sage mode. With a cry of determination, Naruto slammed the Rasengan into Orochimaru, the force of the impact shattering the seals and obliterating the curse's hold on time. The explosion that followed was blinding, the shockwave rippling across the battlefield and beyond. When the light faded, Orochimaru lay defeated, his body broken and the curse's power dissipated. The fractured timeline began to mend, the ripples of time smoothing out as reality stabilized. Naruto collapsed to his knees, his body pushed to its absolute limit. The Nine Tails cloak faded, and sage mode dissipated, leaving him utterly exhausted. But as he looked up, he saw the sky clearing, the darkness receding as the world returned to normal. A sense of relief washed over him, but it was short-lived as he realized the cost of their victory. Sakura and Sasuke rushed to his side, their faces etched with concern. "Naruto, are you okay?" Sakura asked, her healing chakra already flowing into his wounds. Sasuke, though less expressive, placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of his sacrifice. Naruto managed a weak smile. We did it. We stopped him. But his eyes drifted to the horizon, where the aftermath of the battle was already reshaping the world. Villages that had been erased by the curse's distortions were reappearing, but the scars of the conflict remained. The shinobi world would never be the same. In the days that followed, the fallout of the battle became clear. Orochimaru's defeat marked the end of an era, but it also left a power vacuum that threatened to destabilize the fragile peace Naruto and his allies had fought so hard to achieve. The alliances between villages were tested, and new threats began to emerge from the shadows. But amidst the uncertainty, there was hope. Naruto's actions had inspired a new generation of shinobi, and his unwavering belief in the power of bonds and perseverance became a guiding light for those who followed. The battle against Orochimaru's time-slithering curse had pushed him to his limits, but it had also revealed the strength of his spirit and the depth of his resolve. As Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, overlooking the village he had sworn to protect, he felt a sense of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, but he knew he wasn't alone. With his friends by his side and the lessons of the past guiding him, he was ready to face whatever challenges the future held. The final battle had ended, but the story of Naruto Uzumaki was far from over. It was a story of growth, sacrifice, and the enduring power of hope, a story that would continue to shape the universe for generations to come.